We're back on Country Pocket with Aaron Burdett. The new album is Dream Rich, Dirt Poor, and you just heard Written in Red. Aaron, what are your favorite words in red?
Oh man, I'm not going to be able to come up with those right now. I'm a lapsed churchgoer. That also came from something that an interview with my father-in-law after he had passed. He was a musician and a complicated guy, extremely well read, sort of Harley, rough-edged guy, hard drinking at times, recovery based at times, just a complicated dude, and quite a musician in his own right. And there was an interview with him after he had passed, and they were asking him, because he was at the Baptist Bible College at the time, and he said, well, what do you think about the Bible? And he said, well, I can't speak to most of it, but I just pay attention to the words written in red. And I had never heard that before, and I thought, gosh, wow, that's good right there. That makes good sense. Just sat on that for a long time and eventually wrote a song about it. That's where that came from.
Yeah, I certainly see a chasm between the words written in red, which have a lot to do with love for all and combating poverty and, comforting the afflicted, and then looking at Christianity in the country today, be it really any kind of Christianity, but especially evangelical, and it's quite a contrast.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really do agree, and I know it's difficult in this time to not to generalize, but I agree. It's complicated and it's confused, and I think it's over my head to be able to speak to the long-term evolution of this of what seems to be going on, but I agree that there seems to be a pretty large gap between what is said and professed and what seems to be the actions that we tend to see a lot. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a long conversation, and I think as a songwriter sometimes I can point at things like that, but I don't necessarily have enough information and education on a subject like that to speak in a really informed way. It's not black and white. It's shades of gray from dark black to the pure white. And I agree. It does seem like somehow that original message that I imagine as inclusion and love for all and disdain for excessive money accumulation and kindness and charity does not seem to be, from my point of view, what I see the certainly what I would call the evangelical community demonstrating. That's just, again, my opinion. I can be wrong, but that's from my limited perspective. I absolutely agree.
It's a generalization. There are certainly folks who are doing things the way we would agree with in Christianity. There are many denominations, and some of them I feel like I'm quite in line with, but there are certainly some powerful forces, at least in terms of churches that get politically active, that I find to be something I can't abide by.
I agree, and I think this may be, it may be, the other thing I wanted to mention is this, this is something we've learned about the internet in general, is that a extremely vocal minority can cause a huge problem. And I think, there may be some of that. I'm not one who loudly speaks up things I believe in great detail. I'm not an activist, I wouldn't say. I have a lot of opinions, but I think maybe some of the groups that are more vocal and vehement about their beliefs are maybe not as large a portion of the population as the volume and intensity might suggest.
Well, I would certainly hope so. You also mentioned in the song that you hear the truth from drunkards at times. Have any examples of that?
Oh, heck, man, I don't know. I'm just saying it comes from everywhere. I think if I have one complaint about, I hope I don't get myself in trouble here. I live here in the American South, and the one thing I've never been able to get past is the way that some of the more prevalent denominations here are willing and able and even feel obligated and compelled to tell everybody who is not on their specific team that they're completely wrong about their spiritual beliefs, which it just seems crazy to me. I mean, it can't be. It can't be that this one team, is the only one that has it all right. And I just think that's I think it's arrogant and unnecessary. I just believe there are many, many, many paths to truth and God and spirituality, and I just can't, I can't get behind somebody who says, no, everybody else is wrong because I say so.
Next song I wanted to talk about is Too Far From Home, where you really paint a very specific picture of throwing the phone away and watching it fade and get battered by the elements and sort of letting go of a past life. It sounds very, very specific. Have you ever had the urge to sort of escape all your mistakes and trappings and try something new?
Sure. Well, of course. I mean, I think at times I think at times everybody thinks like that. Life can be a lot, man. It can be a lot. I personally have a young family and a business managing a whole pile of construction jobs and people that work with me and around me and, home life and, not to mention this whole music career that we're, working on. It can be a lot. And when I'm in a good place, I know how to manage it and handle it. And occasionally my gauge falls down below about 30%, and I'm just like, screw all of this. I hate everything. I need to get away. I think that's where that feeling and energy comes from, a little bit. There's that imagery out there of I actually say Nebraska. I worked and lived in Wyoming for a little while. I still have some close friends that live out there, and that's what I loved about it. Is it's just so stark and barren, and it just feels like you're on another planet. All the towns are 3 miles apart. I mean, 3 hours apart, rather. It's just very different than this East Coast. The second line and the second verse in that, about the prison, that's verbatim what a friend of mine had experienced and told me. He that's his story. Just like he said it to me. I hadn't seen him in many years, and I knew he'd gone away and to prison. And when I saw him a few years ago, we talked about that, and I wrote all that down, and it found a place in the center of that song.
Well, that's certainly the type of thing that you might want to run away from. What is it that keeps you tethered to the life you have, especially before you had that young family?
Ask me that again in another way. What do you mean?
I mean, what is it that kept you from, going out and trying to start anew elsewhere?
Oh, well, you can't run from yourself. Wherever you go, there you are, and all that. I've certainly tried that in the past to no avail. I found that staying and working on what you have here and trying to make the best you can out of what you have is to me, is a more efficient way to deal with things than just running away and starting over. I'm also sort of a glass half full type person. I mean, while I do, these songs I write are way more conflicted and unhappy and sad sounding than I am. That's just not, I think I get out a lot of that angst in the songs. I'm generally speaking, a fairly upbeat, optimistic person, depending on the day and the time of day. But I believe in working on what you've got, and I believe looking in the positives more than the negatives. So I'm not the kind that would just cut and run. That's not how I roll. I would rather work through something difficult and make what I have better and make what I have suitable, and then just cut and run and try to start over.
Well, let's hear those cut and run fantasies in Too Far From Home.